Today I'm going to show you everything that I bought and cooked using just shy of £25 from ALDI. This will make enough for 28 portions of food, so enough to feed 2 people for lunch and dinner for the gist of a week. First up, I will show you everything that I bought and just a little price breakdown, and then we'll go into the actual cooking part. So this here is everything that I bought for the week. We have got a bag of spinach, some broccoli, a cucumber, some walnuts, a bag of frozen peas, the plant menu meatballs, parsnips, baby potatoes and sweet potatoes, some cans including coconut milk, lentils and tomatoes, a bag of macaroni, half a loaf of bread, some pears, soy milk, naan, hummus, cherry tomatoes, and a bag each of fresh basil, coriander and parsley. This came to a grand total of £19.63. However, there were a few things that I already had at home that I wanted to use up. So these include a 1 kilogram bag of long grain rice, a jar of sun-dried tomatoes, 1 can of black beans and 1 can of chickpeas, and 2 blocks of tofu. This adds another £4.77, making the total price £24.40. This here is the full shopping list. You can pause the video here and take a screenshot if you want to. I found it really helpful to also have the price of the item that I was looking for written down, just to make sure that I was picking up the one that I was actually looking for and not be overwhelmed by the choices when I was in the store. Just as a quick little disclaimer, if you will, there are a number of items that I will include in these recipes of things that I deem to be pantry essentials. So these include things like soy sauce, olive oil, lemon juice, cornstarch, nutritional yeast, vegetable broth, a sweetener like agave syrup, and then onion, garlic and ginger, as well as a selection of dried herbs and spices. These are all things that I always have handy at home, so they're not so much weekly purchases as they are constant purchases. I recently made a video that shows you some cheaper alternatives to a few of these items mentioned, so I will link that down below if you're interested. I have sequenced these recipes so that you can batch prep and save a bit of energy and a bit of time, especially time doing dishes. So for example, whilst you got the food processor out, you can make the 2 pestos and the black bean balls. Similarly, whilst you got the oven on, you can roast both your sweet potatoes and the wedges of pear, parsnips and potatoes. And whilst you're cooking rice for the curry, you can make extra to use for the fried rice. First up, we will make this very quick pasta pesto dish. To a food processor, we will add some defrosted peas, fresh basil and parsley, some garlic powder, walnuts, lemon juice, nutritional yeast, salt and olive oil. I've made this pesto many times before, and sometimes I'll just swap the oil over for water, and that works absolutely fine as well, so you can do that if you want to make it even cheaper. Just before serving, we will saute some garlic and sun-dried tomatoes, and then toss our pasta in this before covering it with the pesto. I also threw some cashew parmesan on top that I had in the fridge. This is a super quick and simple meal, and yet you're getting over 19 grams of protein per serving. This next recipe is a great one as we're heading in towards root vegetable season. We've got roasted parsnips, pears and potatoes, that's a bit of a tongue twister, served with black bean balls and a spinach pesto. So first up, we will cut the potatoes, pears and parsnips into wedges, cover them with some olive oil, salt and pepper, and then roast at 200 degrees for about 30 minutes. To make the black bean balls, we will start off by blitzing some walnuts in the food processor, then adding the black beans, some onion, soy sauce, cornstarch, oregano, and salt and pepper to taste. We'll blitz this into a paste, roll it into balls, and then pan fry until they have crisped up. To make the pesto, we will throw together the spinach, some garlic powder, lemon juice, olive oil, salt and pepper. I opted for garlic powder instead of raw garlic. While I do love garlic, it can just be a bit overpowering when you're using it raw. Now the pesto is pretty bitter on its own. I mean, it's essentially just pureed raw spinach, but in combination with the sweetness that you get from the roasted pears and the parsnips, the flavors balance each other out really well. Initially, I wanted to make some sort of taco mince with lentils and the leftover walnuts that we were going to have, but instead I came across this recipe for sweet potato nachos. Now, I'm not sure if I would call them nachos, but I would certainly call them delicious. I made a few swaps here, so the original recipe called for a Greek-style yogurt, but the only soy versions that they had at ALDI were flavored with like berries or vanilla, so I decided to use hummus instead. I also swapped the olives for sun-dried tomatoes, just assuming that they would bring a similar level of saltiness. So for this, we will start off by making some sweet potato circles, drizzling these with some olive oil, chili flakes, oregano and salt, and then roasting for about 30 minutes at 200 degrees. Whilst the potatoes are roasting, we'll throw together a quick salad of green lentils, tomatoes, cucumber, coriander, sun-dried tomatoes, lemon juice and olive oil. Once the potatoes are ready, we will cover them with some of our hummus that has been diluted in a bit of lemon juice, and then throw a generous serving of the salad mix on top. And as a garnish, we will sprinkle some walnuts. The first time that I made this soup was actually during the pandemic. I was stuck at home and I felt like I had nothing in the cupboards, but I found a can of coconut milk and a bag of frozen peas. A quick Google search later, this green goodness was boiling away on the stove. It's a creamy and bright soup with a spicy undertone to it. To start, we will saute some garlic, ginger and chili flakes for about 2 minutes. And then we will add in our spinach, frozen peas and vegetable broth. We'll leave this to boil for about 10 minutes and then remove it from the heat, and using a stick blender, just mix it until smooth. Then we will return this to the heat, pour in our coconut milk and stir until it's all heated through. We will then add some lemon juice, some salt and some pepper, and then you can serve this sprinkled with some fresh coriander and a few pieces of the bread that we bought. This next meal is very nostalgic to me. It is one of my childhood favorites, and yet to this day it feels like such a treat. We are making stuvade makaroner, or stewed macaroni. I guess this would be the Scandinavian equivalent of mac and cheese. Basically, instead of boiling pasta in water, you boil it in milk, or soy milk in our case. This definitely takes a lot longer than boiling pasta the regular way, and you have to keep stirring and stirring and stirring the pot. But we're left with this lovely creamy macaroni that goes really well with the salty umami-ness of some crispy fried vegan meatballs. Now, the plant menu meatballs didn't have any cooking instructions for pan frying, but the internet kindly advised me that about 10 minutes on medium heat should do the trick. I threw some broccoli in on the side as well for good measure, and if you're not fed up with peas at this stage, you can also add them as a side for a little bit of extra protein. Nearing the end of the week, we are making a potato, chickpea and spinach curry. So we'll start off by sauteing an onion and then adding in some minced garlic and ginger. To this we'll then add a mix of turmeric, chili flakes, cumin and coriander, and then leave that to cook off for a couple of minutes, and then we will pour in our canned tomatoes followed by some diced potatoes and chickpeas. Then we'll leave this to cook for about half an hour. Once the potatoes have softened, we can throw in our spinach and then just cook this for another couple of minutes until it has started to wilt. As a final touch, we will add in some garam masala and some lemon juice. And then we're ready to serve with our white rice and some garlic and coriander naan. This final recipe came together really well, especially as I could incorporate a lot of the little leftover bits and bobs from recipes that we had used earlier in the week. We are making fried rice with 5-spice, tofu and sweet potatoes. To start off, I cut the tofu and the remaining sweet potato and broccoli into cubes, drizzle these with a bit of olive oil and then put them to roast in the oven for about 30 minutes. About halfway through, I started to saute an onion, and then I added in the leftover rice from the curry. Once the rice had heated up a bit, I poured over a mix of 5-spice, garlic, soy sauce, sriracha and lemon juice. I then added the roasted veggies and the remaining bits of spinach, waited for the spinach to wilt a little bit, and then I threw in the last of the bag of frozen peas. This was a low effort but delicious way to end our budget week. So that is everything for this week. We have managed to create 28 servings of food using just under £25 worth of food, which brings the price per portion well below £1. So I'm very pleased with the amount of variety that we managed to create despite using very similar ingredients. Honorary mentions, of course, to the stewed macaroni. I think childhood classics like that, they just never failed to impress. I really like the nachos, the sweet potato nachos. And also the five, this is a tongue twister, the 5-spice fried rice. Try saying that 3 times quickly. 5-spice fried rice, 5-spice fried rice, 5-spice fried rice. The 5-spice fried rice was also a very tasty meal. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, and as always, thank you so much for watching.